Okay, so let's get started. So today's topic is App Widgets. So we are going to talk about what App Widget is, and we'll talk about App Widget framework, and then we are going to go through the steps for creating App Widgets, and then we'll talk about how you can provide configuration utility configuration to your App Widget. So what is App Widget? By the way, App Widget is sometimes called just widget. So you probably have seen these widgets on your mobile devices, Android platform. So a small miniature application that could be embedded in another applications. So it is, in fact, in this case, is embedded in the home screen of the system application, and that app widget is embedded, and it could receive periodic updates. In fact, the app widget, as you will see in a few minutes, is broadcast receiver. So examples of app widgets are something like this. You can actually drop these widgets in your home screen and interact with them. So that's what we are going to do. We are going to build a set of widgets, and you are going to install those app widgets into the system, and then you are going to get the widget on your home screen and then interact with them. So widgets could be typically used to provide quick glimpse of full-featured application. For example, it could be a small entry for showing the complete calendar application, or it could be something like this music app widget that could be displayed on the system, and then it could actually display the full application. And you can certainly interact with the widgets. Again, this is an example of that. So let's get into how we can build App Widget. First, we have to understand App Widget framework that is provided by Android platform. So there are actually three things you have to actually create, you have to actually provide to build and deploy and use App Widget. And there is one extra optional piece, that's the configuration that you can add. So in general, we are talking about 4 different pieces. So here, this slide and next slide, we are going to go over these 4 pieces of code fragments, codes, XML file and class files that make up an app widget. So first, you have to create app widget provider meta XML file. It basically describes the app widget characteristics. For example, the width, minimum width and minimum height, and update frequency, and you can also provide you have to specify app widget provider class, and it will also reference app widget's layout resource file. Okay, again, we'll take a look at the example in a few minutes. And then, of course, you have to provide app widget provider class. This is a Java class, and it provides a basic method, in fact, a set of callback methods that will be invoked by the system. So it is, as I said before, is a subclass of broadcast receiver, and it will receive broadcast when app widget is updated, enabled, disabled, and deleted. Again, we'll actually play around these callback methods in the hands-on lab. And then you have to provide layout resource file. So this is nothing really different from other layout resource file for anything that is to be displayed on Android platform. So here it defines initial layout in the form of XML. And this layout resource file is going to be referenced in App Widget provider meta XML file, which we talked about in the previous slide. And optionally, you can implement App Widget configuration file, App Widget configuration activity. So this activity is basically you can actually configure your App Widget with this configuration activity. So first time it gets installed, this configuration activity gets displayed so that you can configure certain characteristics of your App Widget. Okay, so let's move on and see examples. And here we are going to in fact build App Widget, building those 4 pieces that we just talked about, 4 components we talked about. Okay, so we are going to declare, you have to declare App Widget provider class in the manifest file. And you're going to create App Widget provider metadata XML file. And then you're going to create layout resource file. And then you provide provider class. And the one last piece, that's the optional piece, and we're going to actually talk about the configuration class at the end. Okay, so just like any other the major components in Android application, activities, broadcast, receiver, and services, they have to be specified, declared in the manifest file, Android manifest.xml manifest file. And because App Widget provider class is the broadcast receiver, you are going to specify with, you are going to declare the App Widget provider class using receiver element. Okay, so here, this is the name of the class, example App Widget provider, and you have to provide intent filter with this action. Okay, so it's App Widget update, meaning if there is any update that needs to be delivered to this receiver, this receiver will be picked up and to handle it. And this is the App Widget provider metadata that we are going to talk about in a few minutes. Okay, so you have to build example App Widget info.xml under res/xml directory, and that's something that we are going to talk about. Okay, so this is the one I just mentioned in a few minutes. So as I said before, this metadata is metadata XML file is mainly to specify some of the characteristics of this app widget, such as minimum width, minimum height, update in terms of number of milliseconds, so meaning the update message will be delivered to App Widget, in this case, every 24 hours. Okay, so that is App Widget provider metadata XML file. Again, this file has to be specified in the in here. When you declare your App Widget provider class, you have to specify it using metadata element. Okay, so we have done 2 things. We declare our App Widget provider class as a broadcast receiver in Android manifest file. That's step number 1. And then we have created meta XML file, which we created with these contents, and it has to reside on the res/xml directory. And then we have to create App Widget layout XML file, because App Widget itself is UI component. It has to have its own layout. Now, one difference between App Widget layout from regular layout is that App Widget is based on what is called the remote view component. And remote view is not view, it is actually constrained view, and it doesn't support every kind of layout of regular view widget. So you can actually have remote view object with only this layout and these components, because App Widget is actually, again, very constrained and small miniature applications, and so it will actually support only of these UI components, typically maybe text view and progress bar and buttons. Okay, so this is the App Widget layout resource file. Again, there is nothing much different in this layout resource file from the regular layout resource file, except that you are constrained with small set of the smaller set of layout the layouts and smaller set of UI components you can use. Here we are just using text view, so in that sense this is not that much different from regular the layout resource file. Finally, you are going to write App Widget Provider class. Okay, so as I said before, App Widget Provider class is a subclass of Broadcast Receiver. Okay, and the methods that you have to implement includes onUpdate, onDeleted, onEnabled, onDisable. Well, actually, the only thing you have to implement is onUpdate. So in a sense, it's like onCreate of the activity class. Okay, so onUpdate gets called when each App Widget instance gets added to a host. So you could in fact create a multiple instances you can actually add multiple instances of App Widget, and each time new instance of App Widget is embedded into a host, onUpdate method gets called. And these are other callback methods. I'm going to explain these things using hands-on lab later on. But what's important is onUpdate. So basically, whatever you want to do is going to be included on onUpdate method. Okay, so this is example App Widget Provider class. So it's going to actually extend App Widget Provider utility class rather than Broadcast Receiver class. So here we have example App Widget Provider class extending App Widget Provider class, and then we implement onUpdate methods. So when onUpdate method gets invoked by the system, it's passing you a set of App Widget instances. So as I said before, you could have a multiple instances of App Widget on your in a host. Okay, so here basically what we do is we go through each of those App Widgets, and then we create an intent to launch example activities. So we create the intent. From intent object, we create a pending intent object, and then we create remote views. And then we are going to provide the on-click pending intent. So basically, when the App Widget gets clicked, one instance of it gets clicked, then this intent will be fired. And finally, you are going to tell the App Widget manager, that's the one that actually manages all App Widget instances, to update App Widget, okay, with its views for each of those instances. Okay, so the last item that we'd like to cover is configuration activities. So this is an optional piece that make up App Widget. So when you in fact include a widget into a host, unless you provide a configuration, it will get just included. It will just get included in the host. However, you can specify, you can actually provide a configuration activity. So when when activity instance gets included into a host, then instead of silently installing, it will actually let you have this configuration activity to get fired. So you basically, it's a way of configuring. Maybe you can actually configure the size of the widget, color of the widget, or the text value of the widget and things like that. So it's a regular activity. In fact, App Widget configuration activity is regular activity, nothing special. So again, the usage of this one is like this. If you like to user to configure settings when he or she adds the new App Widget into a host, you can create this configuration activity. So this activity gets automatically launched by the App Widget host and allows the user to configure any settings that are actually appropriate for that particular widget at creation time. Okay, so again, the color, size, update period, or other application specific, App Widget specific settings. And we'll play around with this one in the hands-on lab. Okay, so the last thing you have to do, so for configuration, in order to have this configuration, of course, you have to declare that configuration activity in your manifest XML file, right? So this is nothing different from regular activities. However, you have to provide intent filter with an action of app widget configure. Okay, so that this activity will be chosen to handle configure action request. Okay, and then you also have to declare in the metadata configuration file. Okay, so this is an attribute that you have to specify. Okay, so let's take a look at the hands-on lab. The first exercise is, this is hello world, the app widget. So let's try to run it. So hello world, run as. When you run this application, basically it will install the widget into the system so that you can now include this widget in any host, typically in a home screen. Okay. All right. So this is now installed. Okay. So here now, you can actually see it has been installed in the application settings. We're going to actually try that in a few minutes. Okay. Now you can click in the middle of your home screen or any screen, and then in a second or so, you will see this add to home screen pop-up. Then you can select widget, and it will give you all the applications, all the widgets actually that are available, meaning that have been installed. So here I select my hello widget because that's the one that we just have installed, and then you can see my hello world widget has been installed. Okay, now you can actually take a look at the logging file, and you can see on enabled is called first, and then on update is called. So on enabled gets called every time the first actually instance of app widget is in fact included in a host, and then on update gets called for each instance. So you can actually add at this point you can actually add the second one. So again, hold this guy and widget, and I select this home is hello widget again. So now we have two instances of hello world app widget. So in this case, you can see the second time, when the second instance of the widget is added, it calls just on update. Okay, so this is for each instances, and on enabled is for when the first instance gets added. Okay. All right. So let's see the code. I'm going to explain the code using the lab document. So okay, so we've done that. So we have observed the logging messages. Now you can delete the widget by doing like this. So you can delete, click this guy and hold it for maybe half a second, and you can see the widget is enlarged and selected, and then you can delete it like this. So you see the trash can here, and you can delete it. Okay, and when you see the logging message, so you can see onDeleted is called. Okay, and you can delete this guy again. So again, hold for half a second, delete it. Okay. So now it calls the onDeleted first for each instances, and then onDisabled is also called because that's the last instance of the widget in a host. Okay. Okay, so that's what we have done. So yeah, we actually play around with the multiple instances already. So we talk about this. Okay, so let's see the code. So again, these are the 4 steps I mentioned in the presentation. So basically, you're going to declare provider class, App Widget provider class in the manifest file, and then you're going to create metadata XML file. Then you're going to create layout resource file, and then you provide App Widget provider class. Okay, so first thing is this. So basically, this is Android manifest XML file in which we declare our widget, which is called Hello World widget. Okay, and it should have this intent filter. And next thing is you have to create this metadata XML file. We call it Hello World widget provider. So it's going to be in the name has to be Hello World underscore widget underscore provided XML file, and has to reside on the res/XML. And here we basically have minimum width and minimum height and update period and the layout resource file. Okay. Okay, so as I said before, this layout resource file has to be specified in the Android manifest file using metadata element. Okay. And then we provide the layout resource file. Again, there is nothing really deviating from what we expect. It's just regular. It just looks like a regular layout resource file. And finally, you have to write provider class. Okay. So again, provider class is typically extending App Widget provider utility class. And here, only thing we do is basically on update. Whenever on update gets called, we're just logging the messages. Okay, so nothing really, fancy about this widget. It's really Hello World widget. Okay, and on deleted, on enabled. So on deleted is called every time an instance of App Widget gets removed. On enabled is the first time App Widget instance is added to the host. Same thing is on disabled is actually when the last instance of App Widget gets removed from the host, and this for each on receive is every time new instance of App Widget is added to the host. Okay, now we can actually, even though we have remove that App Widget instances from the host, the application, the widget is still installed on the system. So you can, again, we can install it again by just doing the same thing. Just hold it and widget and select one. Now, if you want to permanently remove it, what you can do is you can go to settings and go to settings and go to application and manage application, and here we see my Hello widget, so I can uninstall it. So in that sense, it's just like any other Android application. Okay, all right. Moving forward. So we have seen very simple hello world like app widget. Now exercise 2 is a bit more involved. Instead of just doing a logging, we are going to do a little bit more. So let's run this application. So this application is called button widget. Let's run this application. Again, when you run the application, it basically installs the application. That's all. Okay, so it's installed. So we are going to go home, and you can install it in any screen. So here we chose home screen, and again widgets. So we should see the button widget that we have just installed. So click this guy. Now we have two buttons. Okay, so when I click this first button, it will do display a token, the toast message, and it also actually provides some notification message. If I click page button 2, then it's going to fire an activity in which in this activity it will just have a toast message and it display a very simple button. Okay, so if I click this one, I close this page and I go to home page. Okay, so you can see how widget could be used to do pretty much anything you want. So in this case, button 1, when this guy is clicked, basically we do start the notification and the toast message, and for this one we can fire an activity. Okay, all right, so let's see the code. So the steps are pretty much the same. So we have to declare that button widget provider class as a receiver, and then we have to provide XML, metadata XML file, button widget provider. So that is this guy. So again, pretty much the same thing: minimum width, minimum height, update periods, and layout resource file. So the layout resource file is we have two buttons and one text view, right? Okay. And we have another layout resource file. This is the activity that gets fired when button 2 is clicked, right? So this is really dummy activity. So we have just one button. Okay. And then the provider class. So here we have button widget class, which extends app widget provider class. And then inside onUpdate method, now we do all the actions we want. Okay, so here instead of just logging message as we have seen in exercise 1, we are creating button 1, button 2, pending intent. So first we are going to create remote view object from the layout. Okay, so we are going to provide layout. Okay, and then we just have a remote views object. And then for button 1, we create intent, and then we set the action, and we set the extra value, and then we create the pending intent, and then we are associating that intent with remote views object. Okay, so it is in fact remote views that actually firing intent. Okay, when the button 1 is clicked. Same thing with the button 2. And finally, we are updating the widget. Okay. All right. So that is it. And this is dummy activity. So nothing really special. So when the button 2 is clicked, this activity gets fired, and it's just have one button and with associated event handler. Okay. So exercise 3 is simple wiki dictionary. So let's run the application. So it is installed. So let's try to add it on home screen. Visit. So it's called Wiktionary simple. So basically what it does is that it actually grabs the day of, word of the day and just display it. Okay, and in every, let's say, 24 hours, this is supposed to be, changed. Okay. Okay, so let's see the code. Oh, by the way, in this case, when I click this guy, it will fire an activity which actually goes to Wikipedia for this particular word. Okay, so it's just displaying the Wiktionary.org for that particular chosen word. Okay, so the steps are pretty much the same. We declare App Widget provider in Android manifest file. Okay, so using receiver. In this case, we are actually using a service as well, so that's the reason we have a service. And because we are going to the internet, we have to provide the permission. Okay, now we have to have metadata XML file, okay, which we specify here in the declaration of the provider class. So again, there is nothing much. And then this is the layout resource file. So we have image view, text view, text view, text view, things like that. And this is a provider class. Okay, so basically, we are going to get called on update, and we are starting a service. And in this service, basically going to the web service to get the word of the day based on the month. Okay. So it's a bit more sophisticated application, but as long as you got the concept of on update gets called and inside, you do whatever you want, that should be actually good enough understanding. So let's move on to exercise 4. This is an application where you are going to have a configuration activity attached to the app widget. So let's run the application. Okay, so we are going to install that widget into home screen. So this is the one, App Widget example, App Widget provider. Now, please notice, now we are actually seeing an activity gets fired. So this is the configuration activity that is associated with this particular app widget. So in this case, it will take whatever text you are specifying in this edit text field, and that value will be displayed with the widget. Okay, so here I might say maybe Boston Red Sox, something like that, and okay. And you can see Boston Red Sox is being used as a title of this widget. Okay, so that's a very simple example where you can configure your widget with whatever user can specify. It could be some text field value, or it could be some settings, whatever you chose as a UI for that configuration activities. Okay, so let's see the code. So this is what we just have done. Okay, so this is the logging message that you probably noticed. So let's actually take a look at the logging as well. Here we go. So this is configuration activity, and this is the add widget provider. Okay, so on enabled, on update, you have seen it before, right? These are the configuration activities. So on create of that configuration activity gets called first, and it passes the number of an app widget ID, instance ID, and this is actually the text that has been actually configured in the previously. So this is not something that I typed in. This is something that has been saved in the shared preferences. Okay. Yeah, maybe I should have another logging message that displayed whatever I typed in this case, Boston Red Sox. Okay. Okay, so let's see the code. So here we have receiver element, which specifies our app widget provider class. Okay, and this is the metadata. And then we have our configuration activity class. So that is called example app widget configure. And that has to have this intent filter with an action of app widget configure. Okay, so this activity now should be able to handle this action request from the system. And then we also have a broadcast receiver. I mean, this is not really being used in this example. I haven't really showed you the time zone change and things like that. That could be actually detected here and do something about it. Okay, yeah, that's something I have to add to the exercise. But for now, let's actually focus on the configuration. Okay, so this is the metadata file. So this is something that you have to specify if you have configuration activity. Okay, so in the metadata XML file, you have to say, you have to have Android :configure and the name of the configure activity class. And the layout is not much different from what we have seen before. And so this is a layout of the app widget itself, and then we have a layout for the configuration activity. So we have a text view and we have an edit text, right? And that's something that, this is an ID of that edit text, okay? And then this is a configuration activity class. Okay, so basically on create method of activity class, configuration activity gets class called by the system automatically when that widget gets included into the host. And as you can see, we have these logging messages. So basically what we do is we find out the widget ID from the intent. So this intent is being called from the system. Okay, and it does have, so system will pass this widget ID with a key value of this guy, extra app widget ID. Okay, so that was the number 15 that we have seen. Okay, if there is no widget like that, then you're going to just finish. In our case, we should have whatever number of that app widget instance. And then we are actually getting the load title preference. This is actually getting it from the shared preferences. Okay, so if you actually see here, it's actually getting from shared preferences that was saved before. So that's the reason it's actually picking up hello. Okay, and then when the button is clicked, we save the string, in our case Boston Red Sox, into again shared references, and then we basically make sure we pass back the, so finally we are going to actually pass. So what happens is the system will actually invoke this activity expecting result. Okay, remember the exercise in activity, an activity can launch another activity with the expectation of getting result, right? So basically we are passing the result, okay, to the system with this app widget ID as a result value. Okay, so that's pretty much it. As you can see, this activity is really, the normal activity that is actually invoked by the system rather than another application activity. Other than that, it's pretty much the same, the similar things that you do with any regular activities. And this is the app widget provider class. here there is nothing much, deviating from what we expect. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a sense of how things work. Okay, so I have about a minute